Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Orange Pill Podcast in the beautiful Orange Pill Studios in the illustrious downtown San Salvador. My name is Graham Elwood. You're watching the Orange Pill Podcast, along with the creators of the whole thing, Max and Stacy. Ladies and gentlemen, how are you? How was your Easter week? How was your holiday? How's everything going?
It's awesome. It's still going. I feel like it's we hit a new kind of chill factor here in El Salvador now that everything is going our way. And everything we said about every other country is going the way that we said every other country was going to go, because we made Bitcoin legal tender. We're on the vector. We're heading toward Bitcoin nirvana. They are on the fiat money path to hell.
Well, Graham, I've just been stacking sats and chilling. That's what I do. And we've just relaxed the whole time. It was good. You know, I did my part. We announced the 5,700 Bitcoin that we hold for El Salvador. And now it's time to sit back and watch the good times start.
Nice. I mean, I think one of you retweeted what was it, in November of 2022 when Bukele announced that they're going to start buying 1 Bitcoin a day. And they've done even more than that, obviously. And now
it's up 400% since he announced it. Yeah.
400%.
Yeah. Yep.
You know, we talk obviously it's a matter of time before everybody gets it. As you've said, you don't change Bitcoin, Bitcoin changes you. But some people still don't quite, they're still missing it. We had some hope from Malay down in Argentina, but then I will bring up this tweet that just came out. And Max, you
responded?
You responded. Argentina unveiled monetary registry for Bitcoin and crypto platforms. And you wrote, Javier Milei makes his first major mistake. He never took the time to understand Bitcoin. Now he'll suffer the consequences.
Yeah, well, exactly. So Milei, took over in Argentina, and there's a lot of hope and hype about possibly making Bitcoin legal tender or following the Bitcoin path, but it doesn't appear to be that way. And two things. Number one, as I said, it means that any hope that Argentina has to dig their way out of the IMF pit is being delayed, deferred. And secondly, it shows again how President Bukele is such a unique world leader. He got it, he gets it, he personifies it. And I make the comparison to Michael Saylor as well. Nobody in corporate America has done a Michael Saylor, even though he went from a $2 billion company to now close to a $35 billion company in less than 2 years by simply doing a simple strategy of buying Bitcoin on a balance sheet. Nobody else in America figured it out. So here you have El Salvador. Tourism is booming, up 11% year on year. It's a huge sector of the economy now. They put $6 billion of fresh cash into people's pockets by simply going after the gangsters and putting them in jail and getting rid of the extortion rackets and all the simple things you would think other people who run countries would look at and say, yeah, that's the game plan. That's what we're going to do. But, they didn't do it.
Yeah, it's really, I was watching this weekend, so down at the beach, because it was the Semana Santa, the Easter week, and everyone, all of San Salvador was down at the beach, it felt like. And I'm seeing all these little merchants, and they're setting up shops where they don't normally set up, and everyone's making all of this money. And I really, as I was driving here to the studio today, I was like, man, they all made whatever, let's just say they made an extra $200 this past weekend or something. And in the past, before Bukele, they would have given half of that over to some thug, and now they don't. And that's a lot of money in a country where the, minimum wage is $390 a month or something, and how significant that is. And why is it so hard to get what he's done? We all had, Malay, and Argentina has this much larger economy than El Salvador, and maybe they're going to get it. And it's going to spread. I keep waiting for this sort of domino effect in Latin America. But then
why aren't there, Picasso, look at how many paintings he did. Why can't other people do it? Right? It's if everybody was a genius, there would be no geniuses, right? So there are only a few geniuses, and President Bukele is a genius, a political genius, a once in 100, 200, 300 year sort of leader. And for good reason. There's only a few of them that ever do come around every couple hundred years.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not, they always make it look easy. Picasso was a jokester and made it look easy as well, what he was doing, but he was a master, right? And we know that because nobody else has been able to achieve the same sort of a degree of sheer workmanship and, just artistic genius. So I think it's that, and it's hard to understand Bitcoin. And in terms of like what Milei has done in Argentina, the problem I see with what he's done is he lumped Bitcoin in with all those crypto.
Right.
So, we regulate, in El Salvador, we regulate under the Digital Assets Commission, all the digital assets. So in Milei, he's having everybody, all of them, Bitcoin, everything, every single, 2 million coins, they're having to register as virtual asset service providers. So we have digital asset service providers here under the digital assets regime. So we do have similar, we have registration for crypto sort of stuff, because those are securities, right? Those are a group of guys or individuals organizing to create profit out of their enterprise. And in the case of these crypto, it's a lot of, they have to, give full disclosure about how many coins they're pre-mining, how many they own, what's the emission schedule, all that sort of stuff. With Bitcoin, obviously it's decentralized. There's no founder, there's no marketing team, there's no persuasion for you to buy this. There's no inducement. There's no, none of that. It's money. It's like trying to regulate gold, or, the only other just totally decentralized sovereign money is gold, because anybody can go out there and mine it themselves and have money. Treasuries, I would say, is also layer one money. I was about to say that, but then I realized, well, actually only the US Treasury can, and their member banks can issue money. So I think it's just, I knew, and I said it and I tweeted when a lot of Bitcoiners were getting hyped up about Milei, I knew for a fact he would disappoint, because I knew for a fact there's just mathematically, and we could see the history books, and we know that there are only a few handful of leaders. You can count 25, 30 if you look at human history of great leaders, right? So it just made no sense that there would suddenly be one that could do the same that President Bukele had done. So I think that's why it is. When you ask, why is it so hard? It's because it is. Just because President Bukele makes it look easy doesn't mean that it's not hard.
Right.
Yeah. Just to follow up there, just a simple point that there was a failure to differentiate between Bitcoin and everything else. So it's all lumped together. And as such, it's all useless as such, because now the point about Bitcoin is that it separates money from state. So what Milei has done is that he's reimposed the state into Bitcoin, so that for neutering any potential Bitcoin has to help Argentina. So he took Bitcoin and he tied its hands and legs and threw it into a reservoir, and with bricks tied to its ankles, and said, help us. And of course, Bitcoin won't help because he doesn't understand it.
And that seems to be such a huge, it's a huge thing that the lack of, people get it, and then they stop trying to learn about it. They think, oh, I get it, it's crypto. And then they just, and it's no, this is one of these things where you have to continually study and learn about it. You have to understand it, because it is complicated, and you can get it at a base level, but you should keep studying it, especially if you're a leader of a major country. But then it also comes down to, like you say, Stacy, Milei is probably just sort of your run-of-the-mill who's got a bunch of people around him, and he doesn't know who's around him, versus this once in a 1,000-year leader that is a visionary who, Bukele has good people around him, but he's the visionary. He doesn't have people in his ear. I'm sure Milei, just like a lot of these leaders, just has a bunch of people in his ear pulling in one direction or the other. He doesn't know what's what. Oh, Bitcoin, crypto, let's regulate it. I don't know what I'm doing.
Well, he treats them all the same, like you said. And I said that at the time as well. I mean, obviously, maybe blowing my own horn, but I tweeted, the problem, I could see it from afar, was that Milei doesn't have a Stacy. And, because I run the Bitcoin office. And the thing is, it's not easy. It's not just like, it's 24/7, like nonstop work to, because every salesman in the world, and there's a marketing team for 2 million shitcoins, they all show up. They all show up to sell every company, every individual, every country on their scam, on their scheme. And maybe quite a lot of them don't know it's a scam, but they really believe that their snake oil is going to work. But they make even more convincing salesmen, don't they? The ones that actually believe in the stuff they're selling. So he never had somebody who had already gone through like 4 cycles in Bitcoin, who had already seen everything, had already understood how to differentiate, but also how to be toxic. When this notion of toxic Bitcoin maximalists, part of that is erupted out of individuals who had been in Bitcoin for a very long time and had seen other early Bitcoiners become scammers, and they might have got scammed or might have believed their friends, and it was early days, you didn't understand it. You could get wrecked, individuals can get wrecked. I just think the higher, there's an individual, then there's companies and communities, then there's nation states. And the higher up you go, I think that the cost of getting wrecked is almost, you can't recover from it. Like, at least for an individual, I've seen some of them go through 3 cycles or 2 or 3 cycles, getting totally wrecked, losing all of their wealth. And it might have even taken them a second time of doing the same thing, getting wrecked, before they could become a Bitcoiner, before they could understand it. The problem is, you need, for a head of state, if they don't understand that and they trust the wrong person or listen to the wrong person or take a meeting with the wrong person, it could be, of getting wrecked on a country level. We'll see. I don't know. I think you do know. You could see Miami got wrecked. A Miami coin, which was sold as like this shit coin on Bitcoin. And it was supposed to be, because it was on Bitcoin, it was going to be better. But that collapsed to nothing. You could see Puerto Rico, it attracted all the crypto scammers, the shitcoiners of America, all moved there for 0% tax. And nothing has been built. Nothing has happened. There's no tourism increase. There's no identity brand value there in Crypto Island. We've seen that in Dubai. There's scam after scam after scam that comes out of there. So we know that it doesn't work. So Milei just doesn't have somebody who can tell him, no, don't do it. Trust me, you're going to get wrecked. We're going to get wrecked. Everybody's going to get wrecked. People are going to make fun of us.
Yeah, and that's a good point. I was thinking that's a mark of a good leader too, is who they put around them. So if they don't have good advisors around them, then that's also the mark. And then thinking of this and how easy it is to fall for the scams, somebody replayed this, that Mr. Wonderful from Shark Tank said this 2.5 years ago.
Paid spokesperson to FTX and a shareholder there too, as we mentioned them, and big advocate for Sam because he has 2 parents that are compliance lawyers.
Oh.
If there's ever a place I could be that I'm not going to get in trouble, it's going to be at FTX. So in managing...
If there's ever a place I'm not going to be in trouble with 2 parents that are compliance lawyers. So again, doesn't that sound great? Well, he's Mr. Wonder. He's this fancy billionaire guy. He's on TV. He must know what he's talking about. And and I didn't know Sam Bankman-Fried's parents were both compliance lawyers. That sounds good to me. Who knows that they're compliance lawyers for corrupt assholes? And we didn't know that he gave $30 million to the Democratic Party. Mm-hmm. And thanks to his parents, he's now doing 25 years in prison. Those are great parents. So, right? This is how easy it is to get scammed and why you need people saying, don't do it. It's why I think this show is important. That's why I have tried to really be as much of a maxi as I can to people and really explain to them, because you can get screwed over so hard. And I got tricked a little early. We all get tricked a little early. And if we can, as we're going into a bull run, if we can try to catch as many newbies as possible and go, don't run and chase these compliance lawyer scams or whatever, who have horrible like, it's the FTX thing was such the like structural corruption on a family level, like the whole family's corrupt. And then I don't know if Mr.
Well, it's this. Bastiat said, when plunder becomes a way of life for a group of men in a society and people in a society, over the course of time, they create for themselves a legal system that, authorizes it and a moral code that justifies it. So they're part of the elite. His family were part of the elite. He was a child of the elite. He was the elite. He hung out with the elite, and the whole system is built on plunder. So of course they, this is what Satoshi Nakamoto got rid of, right? Even in the Genesis block, it says chancellor on brink of second bailout for banks. That's plunder, right? They plundered from the plebs in order to give to the bankers. And that's what compliance officers do as well. Compliance officers, well, Max can tell you, like he worked in banking, and that's what a compliance officer does. They give you, a blessing. It's like what's an indulgence? They sell indulgences for your crimes, and they give you an out, and they let you sleep at night. That this was justified, that this theft that you did on a grand scale. So, like I said, like you said, it's very simple, but it's very difficult to understand. It's so simple. Bitcoin, is just Bitcoin, Bitcoin only. Bitcoin just is. You don't have to do anything. It's so easy for a vast bureaucracy that governments are, for somebody to get just wowed by all of the fancy language, all these blockchains and the transactions per second, and the alleged things that they can resolve, and the wealth they can create, and jobs they can create, and blah, blah, blah. So I think, that's part of the problem.
Yeah, like you were saying before, it's the knowledge of Bitcoin. It's tough to understand it because there's many layers to it. And with each layer, it's another layer of self-discovery, because you have to overturn things that you thought you knew. You thought you knew something about money. You thought you knew something about markets. You thought you knew something about technology. And it turns out that everything you thought you knew, you didn't really know. And this is, again, what Michael Saylor would say, all your models are broken. And so with President Bukele, he's somebody who's philosophically very mature. So he has a good philosophical base that he knows himself. That's why he understands Bitcoin. With Milei, I think he's a very immature man. He's a man-child, and he acts like a man-child. He acts out with his chainsaws and things. So it's not surprising he wouldn't understand Bitcoin, because he's essentially a child. And you have to be an adult to understand this stuff, to run a country. So I think that's part of it. And as far as Sam Bankman-Fried goes, his family, if you remember the Munsters or the Addams family, it's a family of monsters. And they bred a test tube baby of fraud, who feeded Adderall from the mother, who's probably lactated Adderall into his gut 24 hours a day as a baby. And he turned out to be this hyper schizophrenic, sociopathic terrorist of money, and made a lot of people in Washington rich.
Yeah,
of course, because it's like a soldier that goes. He made a lot of people very, very wealthy, and that was he was bred to do it. Like the boys from Brazil, remember that film? Yeah. They bred little Hitlers in Brazil, so he was just bred to be a financial terrorist, and he did a really good job at that.
Yeah, he's like a Manchurian candidate. If you were to, they sat in a lab and went, there's this backlash towards the billionaires and ruling elites. So we'll make him this scruffy kid who drives a Toyota Camry and sleeps on the floor, and he doesn't have a private jet.
What did he say? He said, say the right shibboleths, and you can get away with anything. Mm-hmm. All right, so if it's environmentally friendly, shibboleth number one. It's progressive, shibboleth number two, right? Say the right shibboleths, and you can steal.
Yep.
You can steal a country. Doesn't matter.
Yeah. And just who are you trying to steal? And so he tricked a bunch of younger people and to go, oh yeah, he's one of the good guys. And it's like, you concocted him in a lab. I mean, that's how I would trick the young people. This is what the Democratic Party is good at. Identity.
He's lab grown. He's beyond meat of crypto.
He's the beyond meat.
Yeah, and Kevin O'Leary is like just basically a gun for hire. He'll sell anything for a nickel. Doesn't matter. He doesn't think for 10 seconds. It's just like, if you can put a pile of whatever and he'll sell it.
Well, his parents were also like compliance officers. And the thing is, he's a child of Wall Street, even though he's from Berkeley and, Silicon Valley area. It's like, they are like crypto. They are like those 2 million crypto. They have all those code words. They have those like buzzwords that claim that what they're doing is helping people.
Right.
We're helping you buy a home. We're helping your family access, food, like meals for the week, your groceries with our credit line. And like all the stuff they do is just like it's just sheer benevolence and altruism.
It's like when the oil companies make those videos of like, we're giving money to green energy, and they show the wind farms. And
greenwashing.
Yeah, greenwashing.
Orange washing.
Yeah, this is
Bitcoin, orange washing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, so that's over. But I've, this past week, the thing I've done is I joined a new cult, which is the red light cult. No, I'm learning. I went down a new rabbit hole. I used the opportunity to, we have a new neighbor, Dr. Jack Cruz, who he's a neurosurgeon, so he actually operates on brains and stuff. Like, he does useful stuff.
Yeah, this guy, Dr. Cruz, is pretty amazing in terms of his professional credentials. He's a guy who that works in trauma in hospitals and ends up doing brain surgery. And so he is pushing this idea of avoiding blue light and to get in touch with red light. I myself am not very far down this rabbit hole either. But I believe that's kind of
a lot of modern illnesses, including the obesity epidemic. A lot of people are trying to figure out what the heck has gone on. And people say, oh, it's corn syrup and, GMOs and processed food and stuff like that. But one thing also that has been introduced is blue lights. Like, we used to have incandescent lights. We used to, before that, candlelight, and more outdoors. We would be outdoors, which of course the sun provides. It's not, it provides the full spectrum of the UV spectrum. In the house, everything became like under environmentalism, right? It's now everything is LED, and those are pure blue light. And so you're missing all the other part of the spectrum. And on top of it, like it disrupts your sleep. It disrupts all of the hormones that your body produces. It messes with your melanin, with your melatonin, with your dopamine, all the stuff that you need to stay healthy and sane. So when you also look at the suicide epidemic in the US and the fentanyl epidemic, which is part of the suicide epidemic, these are signs that people's brains are being messed up. And this is not just like, the food, and it's not just atomization, or like people have trying to figure out what has happened. And this is the rabbit hole I'm going down. I'm trying to see how I feel doing some red light therapy, wearing the red glasses, avoiding more of the LEDs, getting the morning sun. That has been a great time this past week, going out at 6:30 a.m. every day and sitting in the sun for an hour. Before it doesn't cause you any sunburn or anything like that, but you get the morning sun. And it could be because we didn't work that much and we were just hanging out by the pool and just relaxing that I feel good, but we'll see.
I think there's a lot of truth to it for several reasons. We're all old enough to have home phones, and now this thing that we just sit there and scroll, and I catch myself doing it sometimes, and I'm like, I want to throw this crack pipe out the window. You need it as a tool, like, to promote social media. And I really noticed too, like, as a surfer, so I turn my phone off before I go to sleep, and I don't pick it up until after I wake up in the morning, and I meditate and I read and I write. and then I turn on my phone. And then like I went surfing this morning, so I spent an hour and a half in the sun, in the waves, no electronics, no nothing. I wear an analog watch, and the connecting with the ocean and nature is really, I see it. If I'm in like bummed out, sad, depressed, angry, whatever, and I can just go surf, it changes. It's my physiologically change. And then I've caught myself scrolling and I'm watching these videos and I'm getting mad because it's some conflict. And I'm like, oh, they're trying to get me and all of us all pissed off. And these kids, and I mean, children today, they're put in front of these things and sure, my generation was put in front of the TV and MTV, but this is 10 times worse. Because
it's all blue light. And that's TVs, our old TVs were not like that. These are just pure blue light and it's right into their eyes. And they're playing these all day long and it's messing with their brains. And I don't know if it's fixable really, because they're growing up like that. That's when you're that age and your brain is still forming and you're, everything is still being built. So at least we're old and disintegrating.
I mean, but I've seen, the building I live in Los Angeles, there's a lot of there's some college kids and there's a lot of sort of Gen Z and millennial, and they walk.
Yeah.
They just walk through and they got their vape pen and they just, and I'm like, Gen X, hi. How are you? And they're like, eye contact, and they mumble away in their phone. And I'm just like, they don't know. I mean, we grew up in a time where I would call your house if we were kids and go, hi, Mr. Kaiser, is Max? And I go, hi, Graham. And I'd have to talk to your parents. And your parents would ask me questions.
Right.
And if I was rude, your parents would call if I was out screwing around in the neighborhood, I'd get these calls. Oh, hi, Linda. Oh, really, Graham?
I used to just go to my neighbor's house and knock on the door and hey, yeah, can Maureen come out and play? And they'd be like, yeah, okay. And I'd just I'd walk in and just go to the refrigerator, open the refrigerator, get a Coca-Cola out of there or something. Who knows? We didn't really have iced tea out of the refrigerator and walk to Maureen's room and get her.
I remember they have a phone basically. So there was that mad dash when the phone rang.
Yeah.
Yes.
The phone. So it's I have to run and get that phone, before they hang up.
Yeah.
Hello.
And you didn't know who was on the other end. Remember that just the lottery of it? Who's on the phone?
Yeah.
I don't know. This is before caller ID. This is before any of that. I mean, I think this is the golden age of crank phone calls when you could just call people up and make it. That's all I did as a kid.
Oh, no. Then you know what caused all the hell to break loose? Max Kaiser and the bankers in the 80s. They started cold calling. I grew up in Connecticut, which is the richest state in the U.S. And my God, all summer long, it would be hi, I'm Max Kaiser. Is your mother there? No, not your mother. Of course, it would be, is your father there? Because I have some stocks to sell him.
Oh, I remember talking to one of those penny stock guys when I was 12, and it was about 10 minutes into the call. When he goes, how old are you? I said, I'm 15. He was like, oh, God.
Too bad. Another 6 months, he'd be buying stocks.
Yes.
But you know who started at the same time, but who never dropped that personality is Peter Schiff.
Right.
Peter Schiff and I started on Wall Street about the same time. The same firm, Shearson Lehman Hutton, thereabouts, and doing the same job. And but he just has never stopped. And he never broke out of that. Every single time you talk to Peter Schiff, there was that story, he was on a cruise ship. And he was trying to sell a fellow passenger his gold cufflinks. And somehow this got back to somebody telling the story. But I can understand that. You're on a ship. You need to sell somebody something because you're just a trained salesman. You have to be selling all the time. So you're some poor grandma's at breakfast. And you're like, hey, I noticed you like my gold cufflinks. How would you like to buy them? And just trap her for half an hour trying to get her to buy her gold cufflinks. I'm sure that's what happened because he never broke out of it.
That's the thing though. That's where we are in crypto. So it was like Max had been describing, it was so fun to run for the phone. It was ringing. It was who is it? Who is it? It's my friend. It's Maureen. It's grandma. It's somebody doing something cool. And then it started to be I'm not answering the phone. It's a fucking banker. They're trying to sell me some stocks. Forget that. So, and it's the same thing with when they come sending emails or knocking at our door now. It's just hey, we got a blockchain solution for a made up problem. And you're Yeah, okay, right. And it's an amazing opportunity to get in on the ground floor right now. This is only going up.
Yeah.
I put another client in this blockchain, in this meme coin, and they turned $3,000 into $1 million in just one day. And so this is like, okay.
It's the same old tactic too. It's like, oh, I don't know if this deal's going to last. You want to jump on it now? Like, I got another couple coming in to look at the same Buick or whatever the thing. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
And now it's more sophisticated. So like one of the tweets, Stacy, that you put up there was about the GDP, right? And in El Salvador going up. It's now 11% of the GDP is tourism.
Tourism, yeah.
Which is awesome. And it's a really cool thing. But anytime any of the three of us post anything, there's these automated scam crypto bots that are like, oh, awesome. Have you thought about, and they're just trying to pitch some shit coin on to every one of our tweets from the Orange Pill account.
Yeah.
I'm like, wow, this is like, it's ruthless.
It is ruthless, yeah. It's unstoppable. But talking about salesmen, we should pay nod in appreciation for some master salesmen like Billy Mays, who sold OxyCleaner on TV, became a legend, and that guy Vince, who sells that nut chopper and says, "You're gonna love my nuts." These guys.
So those were the days that we grew up. They were selling OxyClean to these Zoomers. They grew up being sold OxyContin on television, right? So this is the difference. Like,
the ShamWow guy, I could watch that guy 24/7. Zucchini, martini, linguini, made no sense. He just rhymed words. It's like fantastic.
Yeah.
And we should also plug our sponsor, swanbitcoin.com, swan.com/orange pill, because at least this is giving you, it is a true opportunity for self-sovereignty and independence, true independence.
You're going to love Swan's nuts.
You're going to love Swan's nuts.
You're going to love Swan's nuts.
You're going to love Swan's nuts. And the other thing too is why I would say if anyone's new, like where do I buy, is go to Swan, because all the other exchanges, they're going to try to pitch you crypto. That's part of it. The exchanges go, we'll stake your fill in the blank shit coin, we'll give you, and they're like Coinbase does answer these, watch these tutorials and you get $5 in Cardano, which I tell people, if you're going to do that, then immediately convert it to Bitcoin. Like that's a great way to get free Bitcoin. But they have such a structure to get you to invest your money. It's almost like they don't want you to buy Bitcoin. They're like, buy some Bitcoin, but you really need to buy this other bullshit. Like,
look at Dave Portnoy, the Winklevoss. Got him into some shit coins. So he sold everything, including his Bitcoin. Then like a year later, he's crying, oh my God, why did I sell my Bitcoin? So hopefully he'll get on the right path.
So let's bring it back full circle to Argentina. And they're obviously, they're now as a country are doing the thing that new people do when they get into it. They think Bitcoin and crypto are the same. They're obviously make this as a mistake, and like you said, they're tying themselves into a rock. Can they pull out of this? Can they go, oh wait, maybe we should change our policy to the one like El Salvador has, where they're all shitcoins are called securities? Do you think they could do that? Do you think Malay is smart enough to do that?
Well, our policy has been why it has worked is that I think Argentinians are already very smart individually in terms of preserving their purchasing power, because they've had so many, currency crises over the past 20 years. So when you go there, and we went there the last time right after the currency was devalued by 40%, like 2 months before we arrived. So we expected to arrive and have some sort of sense of economic crisis, but it was like totally chill. And that's because most people there, we were in the middle class area, and staying at the Four Seasons, but walking all around, everybody only has dollars or Bitcoin, so they already know how to protect themselves. But the thing is, I know. So obviously, Milei is is an Austrian economist. He calls himself a libertarian, and there's a free-for-all. He just thinks like everybody can compete for whatever currency you want to use. But at a nation state level, that doesn't work the same as for an individual. And what I'm saying is like the quality of the people that we attract to our country, El Salvador, that come to live here, to build here, to visit here, is just high caliber, high quality people. And, you know, I really believe in, I don't know what it is, like some sort of vibe where when you're surrounding yourself with excellence, you become better and everybody becomes better.
Look at the New York Yankees, right? They got Juan Soto. Suddenly the whole team's playing better.
I firmly believe that who you surround yourself with is key. From having played sports, using the sports example, I mean, I was at my high school football team. We had all this talent, but everyone was fighting with each other, and guys were selfish and me, and we had a losing season. And then I played lacrosse in the spring, and everyone was like team first, and we were undefeated, and we were unofficial state champs. And I saw it. I saw, you know, what the team work together attitude and the me attitude does. And I don't care if it's high school football or Bitcoin or a country. And that's the thing, like you say, that's who's being attracted here. The people that I come in contact, I mean, having been down here 2 months now, and I'm, you know, getting pretty plugged into the Bitcoin community and going to all these meetups, and people are recognizing me from this show. And everyone down here is like, how do I help? How do I build? They're not just down here like, I want to make a bunch of money and buy a Lamborghini. They're like, everyone's bringing their skill set, you know, like.
Well, Milei has effectively said, open the door, said, if you want to scam, come scam. And try it. And, you know, people are free to be scammed by you if they want to be. I think it's you know, there has to be some sort of foundational principles and ethics upon which your economy and your community is built. So I think if you're saying we're open to scams, if you want to try it, like it's a free market. If people want to buy your pre-mined token.
Yeah, he's saying it's a free market and anything can be in currency, and let's see how this all works out. But that would be kind of repudiating the fact that we already went through that. We figured out that Bitcoin is perfect money. So he's not willing to accept the accepted truth, right? He wants to start it all over from scratch and say, nobody knows anything. And so his country's going to lose a decade. They're going to lose a decade or more. They might never, ever gain a foothold into Bitcoin the way it should be, because he himself doesn't understand Bitcoin, and therefore his country will suffer.
Do you think that he has that big kind of Mac Davis, Benny Hill haircut? Do you think that's part of the reason why he's not that smart either? Is that crazy hair?
Well, I think it's just there is a school of thought. There are some Bitcoiners who believe this, like that you should be free to scam. And it's up to the individual whether they want to be scammed or not. But I think if you put it at your foundational as a nation state and you're saying we're open to any scam or Bitcoin, it doesn't matter. And you're like, well, that like you can't put or like Bitcoin or any of these 2 million scams. It's like they're two different things and you can't even equate them. You know, it would be like, well, we're open to ethical people moving here or unethical people. Like, it's like, well, do you want, you know, nobody has an immigration policy, well, except for the US now, I guess, of like, hey, if you're a criminal or a fraudster, like come move to our country. And like, we want you here.
Right.
Like nobody, like you could see that in policies around the world. Like this is not a desired thing. Nobody wants scammers. Nobody wants to be Australia, right? Australia built a country.
Yeah.
Yeah, they just
having all the criminals show up there.
So
and look, it took them hundreds of years to overcome the disadvantage of having, like they have Craig Wright, right? Like that guy was the biggest scammer of all in the crypto space.
So then Argentina is going to be a shitcoin penal colony like Australia was. Is that's what's going to happen?
Yes. The Alcatraz of currency.
Well-
like, it's not like you're saying, oh, we're going to open the field to competition for this product and let the best product win. Like, oh, we're going to experiment with different bowling balls and see which bowling ball works best for me.
Right.
This is money. And so by nature, it's going to hurt a lot of people if they get involved with scams, money-related scams. It's like a consumer protection. You find that in products, right? You can't sell cyanide as mouthwash, and you shouldn't be able to sell shitcoins as money. The government, where he's an anarcho-capitalist, so he believes in no government, essentially, which I think is a foolish school of thought, really.
It's just the way he equates them. So it's just, you know, I think might have been Safe Dean is like, you know, the wheel was invented a couple thousand years ago.
Yeah.
And like, nobody's been trying to innovate in the shape of a wheel. It's just a wheel, right? A wheel is a wheel, and it makes perfect sense. The same with perfect money. We've invented perfect money, and you can never, ever, ever do that again in the digital realm. You can never create perfect money like that again, because it can only be produced once.
Right, it's irreproducible. But he fails to recognize that.
Yeah.
So therefore, he's consigning his country to failure.
So you're equating that in the minds of people who don't yet know, like you're equating that as that they're somehow equal, that, you know, Safe Moon, which is the one that Dave Portnoy got wrecked on, is the equivalent of Bitcoin. And you can see that, like when we first arrived here, you know, and we're helping out, it's like you could see just on Twitter, like there was the Safe Moon army was here saying like, oh, El Salvador adopted Bitcoin. Well, we have Safe Moon. Safe Moon is like newer, better technology. Now that obviously the founders were all arrested, they're facing decades in prison as well in the US. The 3 founders who used all the money, scammed everybody, and you know, including Dave Portnoy. They were here. All those like same sort of Axie Infinity at that time, 2021 was big. It's now, if you look at that chart, it was like soaring, and it got a lot of press. It was in the Wall Street Journal. It was in the Financial Times. Like, wow, this new thing that is it going to replace Bitcoin and stuff like that? Because they didn't understand Bitcoin, and they didn't understand that it can't be reproduced. And of course, that collapsed to zero too. So anybody who gets, right now is the dangerous time for that, right? For a country like Argentina, because we're just entering the Bitcoin bull market. And when the Bitcoin bull market happens, all the frauds come riding its coattails, right? So you'll have a whole bunch of, I mean, it's hard to tell what this cycle will be like, because right now it seems just to be these meme coins, and at least like it's more raw, just like casino stuff. It's like not even a roulette wheel, right? It's more like a slot machine, and some of it comes up lemons, some of it comes up cherries, and that's it. They're not seemingly trying to say we're going to revolutionize your economy and create all these jobs. So maybe this is the last cycle. Just these, like this is the last dregs of the shitcoin market. There's
only one left from the second epoch or third epoch, and that would be Bitcoin Cash and Roger Ver, who in this bull market is coming out and saying that Bitcoin Cash is the real Bitcoin, right? It's the same playbook as Craig Wright, who just is now facing jail. But Roger's like, that sounds good to me. I want to go down that path. And so like Bitcoin.com, for example, doesn't go to Bitcoin because it's a scam. And so, but I think he represents, I wrote about this for Bitcoin Magazine. I think he might be the last of the original 2012 to 2016 scammers that are still scamming the same scam. After that, we enter the Michael Saylor era and the BlackRock era. So I think he might be the very bitter end of that era of scammers.
Yeah, it's curious to see, like, when Bitcoin goes on this big bull run, some of these shit coins are going to go, they're going to have runs as well. And that's when people get greedy and go, oh, this coin was at 15 cents and now it's 250 and I had 10,000 coins. I mean, I hope it doesn't happen as much. I hope it's like you say, Stacy, like it won't, because the Bitcoin hodlers are more and more and the Bitcoin maxis are becoming more and more. And I think what Milei is doing is actually he's going to help contribute. Like you said, he's probably setting that country back 10 years. He's helping contribute because Argentina will have some probably problem.
I don't think, like I said, my perception of Argentinians themselves, having been there, is that they're very instinctual about preserving their wealth. And they've had a long history just through crap policies and mismanagement of their money. So we've been there and we've seen it for ourselves. Like we witnessed it firsthand. However, when you open the door and you encourage scammers to move there, you're not going to build anything great. And you need to build that economy. Needs to build. It needs to build a solid foundation. El Salvador has a solid foundation because we didn't invite those scammers in. We don't encourage them to come here. Like Milei is unintentionally, I think. I don't think he means to, but I think, in terms of how he views his economic understanding as an individual, is on an individual basis. And I could see an individual saying, well, everybody's free to be scammed. If you want to get scammed, go be scammed. If you want to go to Las Vegas and play the slots, go play the slots. Who cares? But as soon as you become a head of state, you have to be a leader, right? Like you have to be like, well, is it really okay for the economy to get scammed? What if your head of like education, your minister of education, or your minister of public works gets adopts some blockchain and scams the entire system, and your bridges and ports fall apart, and you can't do trade deals with China now because you have no port because it's collapsed because it's been stolen by some pre-mined shitcoin. So is that really what how you want to run your economy?
The map is not the territory. So Milei comes in with a map of his orthodoxy as it relates to anarcho-capitalism or Austrian economics. But the territory doesn't fit the map. The map is out of date. The map doesn't work. You have to be in the territory that you're in and navigate accordingly. So he's a leader now. He's a president. He needs to take on those responsibilities. And if, in fact, Bitcoin challenges his orthodoxy, he needs to bend. You don't change Bitcoin. Bitcoin changes you. That's a very fundamental lesson that almost nobody gets. And Milei hasn't gotten it. He thinks, I know what's best. I heard about Bitcoin. Let me tell you how to fix Bitcoin. He's the classic example of that. And so he's not getting it. And he's going to keep pushing his orthodoxy. I
think he's done a good job, though, like getting rid of like 20, 30, 40,000 government employees, just firing them. That's the beginning of something good. But you need to replace what you're like, getting rid of the plunder, getting rid of that plunder mindset. And remember, that is the part of the reason why they have an economy that kept getting messed up and a monetary system that kept collapsing is the mindset of the population wanted money printing. The US is going to have the same exact thing. The mindset of the population is now totally on Biden bucks. They totally on write off our student debts, write off our medical debts, write off these debts, write off my housing debt, write off my credit card debts, write off all these debts. I demand it. That's the mindset that you're going to have to overcome. So if you, don't have a solid foundation of like a proof of work economy and a proof of work answer, and invite in these proof of stake sort of mindset, that's the same mindset, right? That invites all the money printing. I just think you're doomed to the same cycle. Whatever it looks like, I don't know. I don't know what it's going to end up looking like. He got rid of some of the symptoms of that mindset of proof of stake. And the symptoms were the currency collapses. The symptoms were a huge bloated government with tens of thousands of bureaucrats who were not needed for the function of a genuine state. But you have to also change the mindsets. And that is something that President Bukele is so brilliant at doing. He's mentioned it so many times that the mindset needs to shift. The mindset is the most important thing for the population. And I think that's in terms of the Bitcoin maximalism and the not encouraging a mindset that tolerates plunder, which is proof of stake. Those tokens and pre-mines are a plunder mindset. and a scam mindset. It's a bad mindset to encourage. Sure,
Yeah, I mean,
it's going to exist, and sure, people like getting wrecked, and sure, people like going to some S&M dungeon. That's you're never going to stop that. But you don't need
shit
to.
coins and meme coins. S&M.
Yeah, shit coins and meme. Yeah,
S&M dungeon. There you go.
but like, if you don't want to infest all levels of your economy, so if you could set an example at the top of like, this is a principle.
The irony is that he's against central banking and he's against fiat money, but he doesn't mind shitcoins, which are central banking and printing money, right? So that right there is a contradiction. He's a man with two minds. They're in conflict. He says he's against central banking, but he's not against shitcoins that are centralized that print the equivalent of digital fiat money. So he's not with his own mind. He's a man of two minds.
Right.
He's also pro-Israel, so he's in favor of the military-industrial complex, which if you're against the central banks, the central banks fund the military-industrial complex. So he contradicts himself at every turn.
Don't you want to talk about these red lights and the going down, getting rid of blue lights? Because that's a shifting of mindset, right?
Yes.
This is a shifting of mindset because we're in an age of light now in El Salvador, and we have decentralized money, and now we're having decentralized health. And, we can sit here and point fingers at how other people in the rest of the world choose to live their lives or run their governments, and blah, 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 US, blah, 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 Argentina. But what are we doing here? And that's, I think, the most important thing, because we're setting an example for the world. We're the new shining city on a hill. We're the new shining country on a hill. Like, this is all I know, and this is all I can control. So I don't really want to spend too much more time on talking about Argentina and what their decisions are. I could just say, I could just say what we've done on a positive. Like, we've operated on a different method. We'll see who wins. Good luck to him, right? I really hope it works out. I love Argentina. They have amazing food. They have amazing wine. They have amazing country and amazing people. So I hope it works out. But I think we've done a better job, and I think the results are there. And I think the tourism numbers are in, and the Semana Santa was up 30% in terms of tourism into the country over last year, and last year was a record number. The important thing on those tourism numbers that have come out is that since 2019, in the year 2019, so the year before the pandemic, there was 1.7 billion brought in by tourists, and now there's 3.4 billion, over 3.4 billion. So it's doubled in that time, and that's part of the reason. So the security that has been provided because of the gang war and the exception regime has brought in the higher spending tourists. So they always had tourism from, some Salvadorans coming back, but a lot of them didn't. Like, a lot of the diaspora didn't want to come back because they fled the country, and they were afraid to come back because of the danger. But they would have Central American tourism, but now they have Europeans coming in, they have gringo Americans coming in. So they have like higher spending tourists, and you can see that in the data that, there's the actual number of tourists hasn't doubled. It's up like 60, 70%. But the amount of spend has doubled. So you're seeing people are coming, and a lot of the Bitcoin tourists, by the way, are coming for a longer time as well. They're coming for 2 weeks, a month.
What's the next country?
And then they come back.
This country's achieved a plateau. What's the next? I'm looking for the next country now.
I think
I've done El Salvador.
It's true. Just in talking with surfers, I've talked to a lot of surfers who've come here for many years. They came here pre-Bukele. And they just, their patterns have changed. They've come here and they said, well, I would just come here and we'd just stay in Tunco or Zante, and we wouldn't go outside of that. We would just surf. And now we're exploring the country more and spending more money. But to bring it full circle to, the positivity of what's happening here is, to anybody listening, if you're living in a country where they're making crazy policy decisions or whatever, this is why it's the key to own Bitcoin, is because, as Stacy, as you said, the Argentinians, not spending more time on that, but whatever he does, those Argentinians that have already been hodling Bitcoin, they're going to be probably fine, And if the rest of these countries want to still play these crazy games with their central banks and their shitcoin policies or whatever, you buy Bitcoin and hold on to it, man. Just don't buy the shitcoins, buy Bitcoin, hold on to it, People always ask me in the chat, what about this coin, that coin? Just buy Bitcoin, learn about cold storage.
Swan.com/orange pill. Go buy your Bitcoin.
Yes.
You can't sell it there. You can just buy it and
Yep.
transfer it to your custody.
That's what they
the way.
want you to do.
That's the way.
Buy it, cold storage, and then you're insulated against stuff that is out of your control, like a government making crazy policy or whatever. But I hope I feel like there's going to be another country's going to get it. Somebody else is going to see what's happening here. People are paying attention to what's happening here.
I don't think so. I've said that on stage last year in Miami. I said I don't think because I said at the top of the show, there's President Bukele is a 1 in 100, 200, 300 year leader. I don't think it's hard, Graham. I don't think you understand. There are only so many good advisors to move to a new country around the world. There are only so many great leaders. You can't say that it's going to be another El Salvador. There won't be another El Salvador. I would bet on that. Let's speaking of casinos, I would bet on that, but I just don't think so. So I think you're going to see other, various regions or cities maybe, but for the most part, most of them are going shitcoin, whether it's Hong Kong, whether it's Dubai, whether it's Puerto Rico, they're mostly going shitcoin because they don't have the team around them. They don't have a Max and Stacy. They don't have advisors beforehand. They don't have it well thought out, and they get suckered in by the scammers. It happened to the Central African Republic, and it'll happen to Argentina. It'll happen, well, maybe, I hope it doesn't happen to Argentina, but we'll see. It'll happen to these other countries that try, unless they have a good leader, a bold leader with principles and ethics and understands what he's doing and advisors that he'll listen to. And so I think, to say that it's just going to easily happen, Graham, is you're devaluing what El Salvador has done. You make it seem like, oh, if President Bukele could do it, anybody can do it.
I don't think it's easy. I think I'm just being optimistic. I want more people to figure this out.
They should just come to El Salvador. It's already here. Why try to spend the next few years lobbying Liz Warren? Liz, totally, come on, let's get it. Let's figure this out. Why? You can do that if you want. It's up to you. That's your individual. But you could also just move to El Salvador. We already have it figured out. Vote with your feet, right?
Yeah, but if 30, 40 million Americans realize that America's collapsing and they all move here, is that sustainable?
Yeah, we have the space. We could build some towers, build some, we have the space. Apparently, President Bukele told us that we could fit all 8 billion people on Earth in El Salvador, actually. They worked it out.
That's right, Graham. You can fit 8 billion people in the landmass of Massachusetts. That's no problem if you stack them up like this, right? And
just like your sats.
It's a layer cake of humans, pupusa. Humans,
It's a pupusa high rise.
It's a pupusa high rise, a human pupusa high rise. And the president is correct about this, of course. He's absolutely correct.
We came up with a really good idea I think this is a great business, a pampusa, right? Because a memer out there, RDBTC, he was at his hotel this morning and he picked up some pupusas, I guess, from the buffet, and he thought they were pancakes and he put maple syrup on it, which of course, he didn't realize he broke the law by doing that, but so we let him get out of jail. But nevertheless, I figured, hey, that's a good idea, a pampusa for breakfast.
Yeah. And then somebody made a comment that they were putting peanut butter on their pupusa, which
What?
things have gotten out of control here. This is what happens when you let all these tourists in, these gringos. They come in here, they culturally appropriate the pupusa and turn it into a croissant pupusa peanut butter and jelly sandwich before you know it. Deep fried.
This is why there's an obesity problem in America, is because they just put maple syrup and peanut butter on everything.
Yeah,
That's
I think so. I mean, it's the Elvis breakfast. Deep fried banana and peanut butter.
And
sandwich.
Percocets.
And Percocets.
No, it's fentanyl. Get with the modern times.
Well, that was Elvis's. Elvis was big into Percocets, but now the modern one would be fentanyl.
The modern Elvis.
Yeah, the modern Elvis.
Yeah, well, that's fucking awesome. I'm so groovy that I can feel it. And the orange flashlight is good for orange pill. The orange light. We were there already in orange pill land.
Orange flashlight.
Yeah.
What's that?
The orange logo.
The orange logo.
It's all very orangey and light and
Yes.
red. No blue light here. It's not blue, is it? It's orangey red.
It's orangey red. It's very nice.
Very constructive.
What is that fluorescent lighting? What is that? Is it?
No, that's blue.
That's blue light.
Okay. Well,
Yeah, but no,
everything this way is red.
That's why
Yeah.
Stacy has to wear the red glasses.
That's blue. That's why she has to wear the red glasses, because it got the blue neon. It's made from gas. That's when you plug it in, it turns blue. It's neon.
So then those glasses they prevent you from having the negative effects of looking at like a blue screen. Like,
Yeah.
okay. And there's just any red glass, or there's specific type of?
I don't know. I got this at Dr. Cruz's event, The Age of Light, and you could order them on,
Yeah.
Amazon and other online. There's only Amazon, right? There's a monopoly on online shopping. I was going to try to not plug Amazon, but then I realized there aren't actually any other online operators, marketplaces.
Yeah, it filters out the. I used to wear those yellowy glasses. And people are like, oh, you're wearing blue blockers. They would say this for years. I never knew what they were saying. Now they say, I understand they're blocking blue light to some degree, but not to the extent of red or orange. They're yellow. So it's kind of like simulated jaundice. That's the effect I'm going for. Like,
Do we have a coupon code for simulated jaundice
somebody's
glasses?
got a liver disease problem. I'm terribly jaundiced. And that's my view of my comedy is, you could say, is jaundice.
It's simulated jaundice.
Right? A certain sardonic quality to it. The jaundice quality of my humor comes through with the yellow light. I'm in the yellow light camp. Stacy's in the red light, Dr. Cruz camp. I'm in the yellow Max camp.
The jaundice
You're
light.
in the no light camp. You're in the surf camp.
Simulated
If you put it all
jaundice.
together, you end up with the trans flag, which is all the different colors.
Simulated jaundice. If somebody doesn't make that into a punk rock band name right now, I don't know what they're doing with their lives. But that's our show, everybody. This has been fantastic. I just want to personally thank both of you. I've been down here for 2 months. It's been awesome. The crew here has been fantastic. You guys in the booth have done great. This has been really cool. Doing the show, meeting everybody, getting to interview like Mauricio, Lena, a couple of the other guests we had, Reina Chicas from Me Premier Bitcoin. And it's been really cool. So I really thank you for this. This has been fun.
Thanks, Graham. See you. I know you'll be back soon, because when
Yes,
you
I
get
will.
on the 405 in your electric volt, and the battery will be like, going to negative, and you're surrounded by machete carrying fentanyl zombies. And you'll be like, what the actual fuck am I doing here?
Yeah, I'll be walking down the street and I'll see like a homeless guy going to the bathroom in front of my yoga studio, something I've actually seen, and I'll go, I need to get back to El Salvador.
It'll happen.
You'll be back, Graham. Everybody does come back.
Yeah, it's like the
You
mob.
think you have free will. That's a joke.
El Salvador's the mafia.
That's a
They
joke.
keep pulling me back. Well, thank you so much. Thank you, everybody. Again, go to swanbitcoin.com/orangepill for the coupon code and all of that, and get yourself some jaundice glasses. And
Yep.
And thank you, everybody, for watching. Follow all of us below. You can see the scroll below at Stacy Herbert, at Max Kaiser, at Graham Elwood, at Orange Pill Pod. Like, share, subscribe, put all these out there. And I'm sure we'll be back. We'll be doing more of these. Thank you so much. Muchos gracias.
Bye.
Ciao, ciao.